Sharon James, thank you for joining us. You've written a really helpful article in Primer issue 3 around the changes that we've seen in our culture's view of gender and sexuality, marriage, those sorts of issues. One of the questions that comes out of Primer, I think, is whether we have too high or too low a view of marriage. Just help us understand how one or both of those things might be true.
They're both true. In the evangelical church, I believe in many ways we have too low a view of marriage, in that commonly in our churches we've picked up from the culture the idea that marriage is just about a relationship between two people. And of course it is about a loving relationship between two people, but it's not just that, it's so much more. It's a creation ordinance for all peoples at all times, it's a building block of society, it brings two families together, it's the context in which children know who their mother and their father are. So it's not just a relationship, and when we make it just about a relationship, then of course it's easily broken if people feel their relationship is over. So in some ways too low, but because the culture is devaluing marriage so much and it's become expendable, the church, I think, has, in a sense, elevated marriage and made almost an idol of marriage. And so in many churches you go in and it's wall-to-wall family services, and single people feel thoroughly marginalised. They sometimes feel patronised, they sometimes feel as if they're second-class citizens, and all of that is so wrong because the Bible has such a high view of singleness. John the Baptist, Jesus, Paul, they were fully human beings, completely fulfilled and single. So I think we have to get that balance, a high view of marriage but not idolise marriage.
Thank you. In the life of the church, how do you think we strike that balance better? Any suggestions for us or reflections on things you've seen?
Well, I've seen really positive role models, for example in leadership, of both married and single people. And I think that leaders need to be sensitive really in not just always giving illustrations from married life, family life, and realising that a very, very high proportion of people in the congregation are in fact single, and make those people feel that they are truly valued members of the church family.
Thank you, helpful, that's really helpful. If we can come on to a different question, the way that society has increasingly talked about gender categories as very fluid is another area that I thought we might explore a little bit more. It might be tempting, in the face of a culture that says maleness and femaleness are simply social constructs and very fluid, that the Christian response ought to be to really kind of knuckle down and emphasise gender stereotypes. Actually, in your article, you're a bit cautious about that. I'd love for you to have a chance to spell out why.
The really interesting thing about this whole movement is that, in a sense, the trans-affirming movement is buying into what were regarded by the feminists as very outdated stereotypes. As a little girl, I never ever possessed a doll. I wouldn't have known what to do with one. I absolutely hated the idea of them. Probably in today's categories, I'd be told I was really a little boy. Our daughter did mechanical engineering. Does that make her a boy? Absolutely not. I think that within the Christian church, we need to show that God has created men and women, but he's also created us with a huge variety of gifts and capabilities and interests and likes and desires. And so a little boy who doesn't fulfill the old-fashioned stereotypes of being very sporty, etc., I think should be affirmed if he has gifts in what might be a stereotypically feminine direction. And similarly, a little girl might have gifts that might, in an old-fashioned stereotypical way, seem male. But the duty of parents is surely to encourage children in whatever their God-given talents to make sure that they are the people that God meant them to be. So I think actually as Christians we can be quite countercultural in wanting to encourage our children to develop their gifts and abilities and in a sense blow away some of those stereotypes.
Thank you, that's enormously helpful. Thank you.